Welcome back, brothers and sisters. I am Braden. This is Langley Outdoors Academy, and thank you for stopping by. Alright guys, today the content I've got for you is about a New York Times article, and I'm going to be honest, we're going to need to put our thinking caps on this one because it's a little interesting. Why are they doing this? It's all about the why. If you've been watching this channel for a while, you guys know we spend a lot of time on why would they put this article out, why would they publish this bill, what's the behind the scenes underlying why reason. This is a really good one to review. The New York Times is coming out and saying, basically, the ATF is such bad shape, it's terrible, it's horrible. It's the worst thing ever. There's lots of reasons. Here's one reason, and I'm going to go through all of these. And it's in the description box below. You can check out the actual article for yourself. Word of warning, get a cup of coffee, because it's a long article. It's like War and Peace, and it's boring at some places. But I've distilled it down, and we're going to touch on it, because there's a lot of stuff here. And if you guys start to see the direction of this, leave it in the comments field below because I want to know what you guys think, because this is where it gets interesting because I can see them moving. Let me know when you connect the dots. So, here's the basic premise of this article to set it up. The ATF is not modernized. It's understaffed. It's without leadership. It's a victim of the NRA and the boogeyman, and it's not funded very well. That's the idea, okay? So they go into different areas. Here's the first one. This is a sob story. That's what I'm classifying this one as. We had a lady pushing a cart and the floor just gave way. Yeah, you actually heard that right. The floor just gave way. Now what they're saying is it gave way due to the paper load of all of the different firearm purchasing records that were in that building because they have to keep it in paper form. Why do they have to keep it in paper form? This is lending to the not modernized argument. Well, it's because when they digitize it and they put it into a database that's searchable, we don't want a national database because that's against the law. You can't keep it in a national database. They didn't tell you that in this article. All they said was, the paper's too heavy. You can always just rent like a, storage unit, just saying, or a warehouse. You're the freaking government. Use some of that $5 billion. Anyway, I just thought that was interesting. But now we're going to get to how the ATF actually lost credibility with the public. And this is where it gets very interesting, guys, so stay with me on this. The Bureau only grew as an object of loathing among many gun owners. In 1993, its agents raided the Branch Davidian compound in Waco, Texas, in an ill-prepared operation against a religious sect that had been stockpiling weapons. 4 agents and 6 sect members died, and long siege followed, ending with an FBI-led assault weeks later that left more than 70 dead. The ATF's image never fully recovered. Men, women, and children. Okay, they didn't say that, but that's what happened there. That was a very bad thing in the 90s. Now, that's the first thing that they cite. Again, this is the New York Times. Remember, their gun control, they're aligned to Biden's gun control, and Biden can only do actions through the executive actions enforced by the ATF. So, on the face, it doesn't make sense, right? All right, let's keep going. Its image took a further hit with Operation Fast and Furious, a botched effort to crack down on the gun trafficking that ended in 2011. The agency lost track of hundreds of weapons as it focused on bringing a bigger case against the gun smuggling network linked to a Mexican drug gang. The Justice Department's Inspector General blamed the federal officials in the case, saying they were permeated by a series of misguided strategies, tactics, errors in judgment, and management failures. Look, they're just doing so bad. It's terrible over there. Interesting. So right now, it's been a tone of victimhood. It's been a tone of, like, these things are bad. They're being picked on. They have a bad public image. Tone change. This is important, guys. Check out the words they use now and the tone change when they start talking about how it can kind of change. Now, check this out. Now, the long-suffering ATF is at the center of President Biden's plan to push back what he called the international embarrassment of gun violence in America. Oh, the long-suffering. Oh, poor ATF. But it's at the center of President Biden's plans to push back what he's called an international embarrassment. Cue the David and Goliath music. You don't believe me? Let's go to the next one. As he laid out his expansive vision for the nation on Wednesday night, which in the State of the Union thing, Mr. Biden once again called on Congress to expand background checks and ban assault weapons. But given the abiding power of the gun lobby, his immediate hopes lie in a more limited list of executive actions that will ultimately rely on the effectiveness of the ATF, the federal agency tasked with enforcing the country's gun laws and executive actions. Alright, real quick guys, if you were here on this channel January, February, March of this year, and you remember us talking about this, having this conversation, about how they were going to be limited to executive actions, and that's all they could do through the ATF because Congress makes the law, leave a comment in the field below because I want to know who's been here with me this whole time, because we've known. We've been talking about this for 3-4 months. It's good to know the New York Times has been watching. They must have picked up one of our conversations. All right, now let's keep going. And now I labeled this to the future. because this is where it gets a little funny. So, to the future. And to lead the Bureau into the future, Mr. Biden has nominated a fiery former ATF agent and gun control activist David Chipman. Fiery? Gun control activist? Lead? Wow, those are positive terms. Interesting, that really changed. It was so bad, sad and dreary, and now it's fiery and positive. Kind of like fiery, big, bold action. Interesting, that sounds familiar. All right, a demand for leadership. I'm not making this up. The mere presence of a permanent leader like Mr. Chipman has the potential to be transformative, former agency officials said. There's that word again, transformative. Where have I heard that? Oh, yeah, in the media talking about the Biden administration, how he's the most transformative president since FDR. It's amazing how all of these words keep going in the exact same circles for the same purposes, isn't it? I digress. Because we're smarter than them, guys. We got this. Now let's talk about Mr. Chapman. What's his background? What's he been into? According to this article, Mr. Chipman served as special agent during a 22-year ATF career that ended in 2010, first in the Bureau's hectic Detroit office, then in stints working the Interstate 95 corridor, the country's biggest conduit for illegal firearms, and at the Bureau headquarters. Not only was he 22 years in the field, in the grit, he worked at the headquarters. He was on the I-95. I know, the iron pipeline, the gun legislation. The gun smuggling route. It was crazy. But that's how amazing he is. Oh, hey guys, comment. Did you remember that Waco, Texas thing that smeared the ATF and ruined the public image? It's awkward, and they must have just forgotten this because this guy was here. So when they're describing about his illustrious career at the ATF, for some reason they left out the fact that the very reason that the ATF has a bad name, and they referenced in this article and said it was terrible at Waco, Texas, this guy, David Chipman, was there involved in the actual operation, but they didn't mention that with him. So in the same article, they use Waco as a negative on the ATF, but they omit it from the guy who is actually involved as the savior of the ATF. Do you see how twisted this is? This is beyond manipulation. But anyway, that's why we're talking about this, because we can spread this message around. Now, this part I found very curious. You remember Giffords.org? Because I was wondering, where did David Chipman come from? It's obvious he was groomed and chosen for this, but where, what, how? Okay, well let's talk about that, because it's in the article too. Gabrielle Giffords, the former Arizona congresswoman who became a gun control activist after being severely wounded in an assassination attempt, began pushing, along with other gun safety groups, for Mr. Chipman's hiring in mid-November, shortly after Mr. Biden was elected, according to several people with knowledge of the situation. Mid-November? That's a week after the election. Interesting. It's almost like this has been planned the entire time. And guys, that's what I want to talk to you about. They are laying a path. They are going to put him back into the limelight because they've had this on their plan the whole time from the far left gun control thing, the gun control advocacy movement. This is a big thing. But guys, let me know what you think in the comments field below. And until tomorrow, I'm Braden. See you later.